Wisp Sports Radio, the voice of women in sport.
Hello, and welcome to episode 11 of Ready Steady Rehab on Wisp Sports Radio, where we believe that women in sport deserve equal coverage.
When I told you I was gonna give you advice.
Ready Steady Rehab is a podcast about sports injuries, what can cause them, symptoms to look out for, and the rehabilitation process.
Well, you can't see through those innocent eyes. You're too far away to let me down.
Welcome back to the show. I'm Dr. Heather North, Doctor of Physical Therapy, and on today's episode, we are going to be talking about shoe fitting and orthotic prescription. So, kind of some of the old school thoughts on shoe fitting is starting to be debunked. Really, there haven't been any changes in injury prevalence in the last 50 years since the 1970s. You know, more and more people are running. Shoe companies are coming out with newfangled shoes with cushioned this and better stability for certain things. But what we're really finding is that basically none of these changes are really leading to less injuries in runners. So some really interesting studies are coming out on insole prescription. So at my clinic, we do make orthotics, but I'm really quite hard-pressed to actually make an orthotic, a custom orthotic for a patient. The reason being, there's a couple of things. Obviously, the biggest factor here is that the research really is not supporting this anymore. Mostly because patients are not comfortable in these orthotics, they're very expensive, and again, like I said, the research really isn't there for showing that they do prevent injuries. So what some of the interesting research that's coming out of more current studies is showing is that basically comfort is one of the biggest pieces for an insole. I mean, yes, we do need to oftentimes correct for small things here and there, but we can oftentimes use a really comfortable over-the-counter orthotic running anywhere between $20 and maybe $50 as opposed to $400, $500, $600. We can make those small corrections, which should be small, on those non-custom insoles. And so we're really finding that that comfort piece is a huge, huge driving force in patients and runners not becoming injured. We're also finding that a softer shoe insole, and again, I think this goes back to the comfort piece, tends to decrease that injury incidence. So now let's go ahead and get into some of the, I think, preconceived thoughts and even some of the thoughts that I had when I came out of doctoral school about 10 years ago. So we're really finding that impact forces aren't really related to running injuries. And if you really think about it, you know, some of the more elite runners are running with a lot more impact, but they don't get injured more often, and a lot of times they tend to get injured less. So this whole impact thing and cushioning doesn't really seem to hold up. So we're also finding that foot pronation, or kind of the eversion, you know, the foot coming in, may also not be a contributor to running injuries, which is really completely against what I thought when I graduated and how I practiced for quite a while. But now I wanted to kind of throw in a patient of mine for some anecdotal discussion here. So she came in with orthotics, custom orthotics with corrective shoes, and over a period of about 6 months, she had many, many injuries, and I decided to actually follow some of this evidence myself. And I got her into an insole that she really liked. I gave her several choices that she could pick up from her local running store, and she found the one that was the most comfortable. And obviously for this patient, we don't want something that had a massive arch or anything like that. It was something that was, again, very comfortable and fit with her kind of foot type. Then we ended up getting her into a more comfortable shoe. And I told her, I just wanted you to go to your local running store and pick a shoe that feels good. And I think she was quite surprised what she came out with, because she's much more used to having a heavier, harder shoe. And now she's in a shoe that she's a lot more comfortable with. It tended to be a little bit lighter weight for her. It had some kind of interesting parts to the shoe that she wasn't really used to, but she found that that was the shoe that was the most comfortable. And in the months after this, her injuries did start to disappear. And obviously you don't want to make big changes. So if you're used to big orthotics and a very stiff shoe, you don't want to all of a sudden go to a completely different insole and a really flexible shoe. So you have to make those changes very, very slowly. And so we did with this patient as well. We had her actually stay in a more rigid insole to begin with and kind of vary back and forth between her old shoes and the new shoes. And she's doing great now. So again, easy does it, no big changes. But for the long haul, it's really important to make sure that you're in a shoe that is comfortable. So shoes that change eversion, so shoes that, have big amounts of stability in the back or tend to control the foot, what we're really finding is they're not really changing the movement path, but they're rather changing a little bit of range of motion of the ankle. So even though we're stabilizing the ankle, we're not really changing anything from the ground up into knees and hips, and the patient is still kind of going forward with their normal movement path. So the shoes really aren't making a huge dent in this. A good running shoe really might allow for this kind of natural movement path to be easily attained. So, not forcing the ankle into a position and then having the body kind of find the path of least resistance on its own. And really this movement path that is comfortable for each patient really uses less force and muscle activity. And we're finding that these comfortable shoes show less injury rates and also show less oxygen consumption. So what does this really tell us about a shoe fit? And so when you go to your local running store and they do a foot analysis, this is again a different piece compared to a gait analysis, which we'll get into towards the end of the podcast. A foot analysis is going to allow the individual helping you at the store to figure out, are you a massive overpronator? Things like that. A patient who is a massive overpronator, we don't want them to run in a super flat shoe without a lot of support. We don't want to go crazy with that. But it also, on the other hand, is really important for this patient to find a shoe that feels good. So working with the sales staff and finding that shoe that not only looks good but feels fantastic on your feet is a huge part of it. Take the shoe outside, run around. Make sure that it makes you feel really comfortable. And ages ago, I was fit with a shoe, and I had really not had any injuries for years and years and years. And I was fit with a shoe. It was a new type of shoe that I was used to, and I was told at the store that I looked fantastic in it. And I trusted them, and I said, it just doesn't feel right. And lo and behold, within a couple of months, I had shin splints, which I hadn't had basically since I was a freshman in high school. So this was, looking back on that, I really understood that, yes, it's important for you to look good in a shoe, but I probably should have picked the shoe that maybe I didn't look quite as good in, but felt a ton better. What we're also finding, too, is that a full body gait analysis versus a foot analysis is really the way to prevent injury. So work with your local physical therapist. If they do offer full-blown gait analyses at your local running store, that's another wonderful way to make sure that you stay healthy. Basically working on issues unrelated to your feet. So knee stability that's created from your glutes, back stability and hip stability that is created from your abdominal muscles, making sure that you have correct turnover, that you're not landing in front of your center of gravity. There's all sorts of issues that can go on here, and those are going to have a much, much, much bigger impact in preventing injury than a shoe that is very slightly changing the movement in your foot, and also, again, from the research, maybe not showing that it will actually even prevent your injuries. What we're learning here, if you're going to get a shoe, make sure you like it, make sure it's comfortable, and make sure that that shoe allows your body to kind of do as it likes, and that you're able to get into that movement path that your body falls into. And if you do need an insole, and again, not every person needs insoles, use the regular shoe insole that comes with a shoe. You can make modifications on that. Your physical therapist can do that. And if you need a little bit more stability, again, look at a bunch of different options and pick that insole that feels the best. So I hope these tips can help you the next time you pop into your locally owned running store to pick shoes and insoles so that your entire year of running can be one lacking injuries and one filled with lots of success.
conversations from the world of women's sports. This is Wisp Sports Radio.
I hope you found this helpful, and if you would like more information, please visit my website at redhammerrehab.com, provided in the show notes. You can also email info@wispsports.com with any questions you may have about sports injuries. On the next episode, I'm going to talk about what causes injuries and fatigue-related injury. There will also be links in the show notes accompanying the episode at wispsports.com. Just go to listen and click on Ready, Steady, Rehab. For more conversations in the world of women's sport, visit wispsports.com and subscribe to Wisp Sports Radio on your podcast player. You can also post your comments and share on social media, so just look out for @RedHammerRehab and @Wisp Sports. Thank you for listening and supporting women in sport.